The next section we're going to talk about is percent proportion. The percent proportion is percent over 100 equals part over whole. One thing that's really important to understand about the percent proportion is that the percent right here represents some part, and the 100 represents the whole. So normally when we talk about percents, we're talking about some amount out of 100, but we use the percent proportion when we're talking about some amount that's not out of 100. And we use this to figure out what percent something is out of some amount other than 100. So remember, ideas across from each other on proportions are the same. Percent and part are part of our whole. 100 and whole are our whole. So let's set up a couple of these. For example, what is 20% of 10? So we're trying to find 20% of 10. So 10 is our whole in this example instead of 100. And we're trying to find 20% of it. So the way we would set up our proportion in this example is we would put 20, which is our percent, over 100, because percent always goes over 100. When you put the 20 over 100, drop your percent sign, because percent means out of 100. 10 is our new whole. Instead of 100, 10 is our whole, so it goes across from the 100. And when you're looking for a part of that 10, we're looking for a part that's 20% of the 10. Now we're going to cross multiply 100 times x is going to equal 20 times 10, or 200. Divide both sides by 100, and x equals 2. So 2 is 20% of 10. Another example, 60 is what percent of 40? In this example, we have 60 being our part. 40 is our whole. Notice that your part is actually bigger than your whole, because sometimes you can have more than 100%. And then our percent is what we're solving for. So x goes over 100. We're going to cross multiply. 40 times x is 40x. 60 times 100 is 6,000. Divide both sides by 40, and x is 150. And you put the percent sign because it's no longer over 100. So you need to put percent to mean out of 100. Now, again, in this example, I want you to notice that we're looking for the percent of 40. So the of is our whole. That gives us 60. So that was 150%. Now, in the next example, we're looking for the of. The of is our whole. If you look back up in our percent proportion, the of is our whole, the is our part, and the percent is the number over 100. So here it says 50 is, so there's our is, 50 is 20% of what number? So we're trying to figure out, well, 50 is some part of this number here. It's actually 20% of that number here. So what is that number? We're going to cross multiply. 20 times x equals 50 times 100, which is 5,000. We're going to divide both sides by 20, and x is 250. So what we found out is that 20% of 250 gives us 50. Now I'd like you to stop and look at these three problems. I have actually given you an example of the three different types of problems that you'll run into with percent proportions. You could be looking for the percent, you could be looking for the part, or you could be looking for the whole. The part goes with the word is. What is? So we had an x in this first example. The whole is your total, or your of. So in your first example, of 10, that was your whole. And of course the percent is the number that goes with percent. So in your first example, 20%. So your first example, we were solving for the is, or the part. In the second example, we were solving for the percent. And in the third example, we were solving for the of, or the whole. Let's look at some more examples. On this page, we're going to go through and we're going to identify the whole, the part, and the percent, and then we'll set up the problems. So in number 1, see if you can figure out which part is the whole. The whole is the part that has the of. So of 67 So 67 is our whole. The part goes with the word is. So what is? So that's our X. And then the percent goes, of course, with the percent sign. So that's 22.5. And the next example, our whole goes with the word of. Here we see of what? So we're actually looking for the of, or the whole. The part is what goes with is. It's the part out of the whole. So that's 266 of some number gives us 15.2%. And of course the 15.2 is our percent. In the next example, we have 34 is what percent of 26? So our whole is 26. It goes with the of. Our part is 34. Now notice in this case that our part is bigger than our whole, so our percent should be over 100. And the percent is what you're looking for. So let's look at how to set these up. In the first one, we're looking for the is. So we're going to have X in the is section, or the part. 22.5 is our percent, 67 is our whole. You cross multiply 100 times X to get 100X, 22.5 times 67 to get 1,507.5. Divide both sides by 100 and you get 15.075. So what we've seen here is that 15.075 is 22.5% of 67. In the next example, we're going to set this up. The X will go where our whole is, right here. So 15.2 is our percent, 266 is our part, and we're trying to figure out what number 266 is 15.2% of. It's obviously going to be a big number. 15.2 times X equals 266 times 100. Divide both sides by 15.2, you get 1,750, and it is indeed a big number for our whole. In the last example, we're going to put 34 in the is, 26 in the of, and we're trying to figure out what percent 34 is out of 26, which is obviously over 100%. So we just cross multiply and solve there. Now let's look at some word problems. We're going to be taking these examples and setting up word problems. 28% of the middle school students showed up for the volleyball game last week. If there are 289 middle school students, how many did not show up? So let's see if we can recognize some of the important information here. We have our percent. This is our total. How many did not show up? This is going to be our is, but this one's a little bit tricky because in this one, the 28% represents the students that did show up. We want a percent that represents the students that did not show up. So we're actually going to subtract 28 from 100. So only 72% of middle school students did not show up. So now we're going to set up our proportion. Our percent is 72, our whole is 289, and we're looking for our is. So 72% of 289 students did not show up. So we want to know how much that is. You cross multiply and solve. That's approximately 208 students did not show up. Let's look at another example. A sweater is normally sold for $45. If it went on sale for 15% off and the sales tax was 75%, find the total cost of the sweater including the discount and sales tax. So this is going to take several steps. First of all, you need to notice that this is your total amount. We have a percent to work with. We actually have 2% to work with, so that's going to be two different problems. So Let's start off and think about this. A sweater is normally sold for $45 and it went on sale for 15% off. Well, we need to find the new price of it, because once we find the new price, the price we're actually going to pay, then we can add the tax to that. So the new price is not the 15%. It's actually the price we pay. So we're going to say 100% minus 15% equals 85%. So that's the percent of the original price that the new price will be. So 85% is how much we're actually going to pay for this sweater. So 85% of the original price of $45 will tell us the new amount. So when we cross multiply and solve, we get $38.25. So that's the cost of the sweater on sale. Again, we did 100% minus 15 because we're not paying 15%, we're only paying 85%. So 85% of $45 gives us the amount we are actually paying. Now we're going to have to add 7% sales tax to that. So we're actually going to be paying 100% of this plus another 7% sales tax. So we're going to pay 107% of $38.25. So we're going to set up the proportion as 107, that's our percent, over 100 equals X over 38.25. So again, we're paying 38.25 plus 7%. So that's 107% of 38.25. We're going to cross multiply and solve, and we end up with $40.93. We need to round to the nearest hundredth since we're dealing with money. And that's the cost of the sweater on sale, including tax. So one more time to wrap that up. What we did was we found the sale price of the sweater. The sale price is 85% of the original price. Then we needed to add tax. So we took the sale price and we added 7% to it by adding 7% to 100%. So we found 107% of $38.25, which is $40.93.